Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday, September 15th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And it was a two-tiered channel working high. I originally had this a little bit different. I was playing this as the high, but in the end, I think it was right across here. And still two tiers, still basically the same trend line. You had your first two swings here. This confirmed it. Somebody asked me about that today. Let me explain that. Generally, you find your trend line off the first couple of swings, but you don't really know if it's valid for certain or not till you get a third touch and it holds. So that's your confirmation, your third touch. So that's what I meant by that. You can see it held all the way up. We finally got a for sure close outside, and then for the most part it looks like two measured legs up. You can see there's one leg up. Or really it's, you want to measure from here really. Or actually from the break, that's right. First leg, then second leg. We didn't quite get that second measured leg, so, but it's close enough. So, but anyway, your first break and then two legs up and then it reversed. So, um, pretty straightforward. This trend line was kept you on the right side for the most part, and there was only one short early on here when this looked more rangy than anything. Um, we really weren't sure it was a, that it was a trend. This gives you your first clue, but once it goes higher from here, it's pretty obvious that what's going on then. But early on, it looked like a trading range, and so you could play it that way really up until about right here. Then you had to kind of, especially when it shot on through right here, you still don't know that it's going higher. It could fail and turn down, but this is a failed second entry short after two pretty much measured legs up, so that's a good clue, and you can see that's a nice reversal bar right there. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me back out here and talk about the trades. The first trade I saw after coming in, there's a nice second, well, I shouldn't say a nice, but there's a second entry short here. Notice that we're moving up, and I drew this trend line off this side first and drug it over, and it fits right along those first few bars there. So, and then we kind of get a confirmation right there, but at the same time we get a break here. But notice what happens. You got a new high, you pull back, first entry, pull back, and that's, even though that looks like somewhat like a doji, it's closing in the upper 2/3, and there's a lot of stem at the bottom. So that's a bullish bar, even if it doesn't really look like it. So that's a second entry long. You figure we're going to make a retest of the high, which is not very far, so that gives you a little bit of concern. But the overnight high is up here, and most likely we're going to test that, and that's what we do. We actually push right on through that. So this was a nice setup. We fail on the break higher. You get a push higher that fails and turns down. You don't really want to go short out of that. There's too much overlap. Look at all the dojis in there. And then it tries to go higher here, so you get a failed second entry long. So I like that for a short, thinking that, hey, we're still playing the range at this point. If you move this over, you can see how this looks. This still looks real rangy at the moment. So there's a good chance we may go all the way down, and you don't know that this trend line's any good yet. It hadn't been confirmed. You don't even have a second touch of it yet, and there's plenty of room to get out there. So I like that failed second entry long as a trap for a short. Turns out to be a quick, easy scalp. And then where does it bounce? Right off the trend line. You can't really go long there. You could notice that there's a little double bottom and a failed break lower. This probably should be circled in green, I guess. There is a close outside right here and a new low, and there's a failed break lower, and it does break lower and then turn and go higher. So if you wanted to be aggressive with that one, I'm okay with that. And I like that trade myself, to be honest. So I should have had that one marked green. So nice move up there. And then you pull back, and guess what? We get a confirmation of the trend line right here. And you could treat this like a second entry long. It's a nice bullish bar right off the trend line. But notice what happens here. You move up. You got to. This is a new swing high. It's higher than that one, so you pull back and you get that first break higher, and then you get a little lower high. So if you went to a different chart, you'd see a second entry long there. You might have used a limit order here, and you see it would have backed up and probably filled you. But this thing takes off, and it shoots right through, right past that last high, pulls back, and this bar actually goes lower first and turns up. This was a pretty good trade right here. And breaks higher, all in the same bar. You could have just used a stop there, but I liked using the limit order here and trying to get a little tick or so back in. And this thing moved real quick, and then it comes back and it makes another little jog back. And so this is also a failed second. This is a breakout pullback long. It's a failed second entry short. It's a what else? Breakout, pullback, long. Already talked about that. So there's a lot of, plus there's a trend line. Notice how that trend line's coming up there off those first few bars. It confirms that trend line. The shorter, this blue one's a shorter term trend line. And so I like that one. Hoping that we'd go all the way to the upper side. And at that point, I originally had this up here. I ended up moving this back down. I wasn't sure, you see it right there, but you figure we may go to the higher one. It just didn't happen. We didn't even get to this one, so it didn't really matter either way. We ended up getting the break here, and we never could even get back to the midline on that one. So never really came into play, but it doesn't matter. It keeps you in this trade right here. And the main thing that keeps you in this trade is this short-term trend line. Now let me back up here from this trade and go back and talk about right here. There's actually is this where the okay, this is where the second entry long is. And somebody else asked me, they went long right here. And the main reason you can't go long is you've had the break of this to close outside this and a new high. Plus at this point it looks kind of rangy. You've had a failed break higher and you're turning down. But the biggest thing is you've got this short-term trend line and you don't have any close outside of it or anything. Look at all the congestion right across there. Let me break this out and make this a little bigger. Of course, when it broke higher, you only had 2 bars here, but they didn't even have a bullish bar here. I mean, there's just no reason to go long right there. It is a second entry long, but just because there's a second entry long doesn't mean you go long. You got to look at the big picture, and at this time, this looked like a trading range. I mean, again, if you slide this over and look at this right here, yeah, there's a second entry long when that broke higher right there, and it is at the EMA, but look how we kind of shot through the EMA. We should have got a little more resistance there off that EMA. I mean, it could have still gone higher, but it's just not a place you want to go long when this is looking like a range and you've already had a failed break and you got a trend line working lower there. And you can see that turned down right off of it. We weren't back to it yet. There's not a long there. You got to just sit and be patient. And you end up getting your long down here if you're just a little bit more patient. And you get your really good setup here. And the thing is, any runners would be safe here. I'm not sure if you got a runner off that entry or not. I don't think you did. Yeah, you would have got a runner there and there. They would have survived. So, you got to consider that. And if you might have got a runner here if you used a limit order. If you waited on this bar, you probably didn't, unless you used a limit order where it came back right here and then it went higher. And so you might have got a runner even off that one. But there's a second entry long here. It's really not because you made a new high here, but you could still treat this like a second entry long. But your bar is bearish. You got a break here. You don't have much room before the high, and this is the high of the day now. So you can't be going long right there. Let me put this back where it belonged. So you don't want to go long there, even though it would have worked. I mean, this is where people agonize if they don't understand price action. They see these trades and they want to take them and they don't and they work, and then they chase them the next 5 or 6 times and they all fail. Well, if you stay away from those, just because they work sometimes, don't waste your time with them. It doesn't mean they're worth taking. And notice your close, you're moved to a new high, and then guess where you're working back to? Once you get over here, you're working back to this trend line again. So you got to wait on that. It was tempting to kind of go long right here, but you don't really have a setup. You need to wait on a failed break lower. So this is the perfect setup. It comes back to the trend line. It bounces off of it. It's a failed break out of this real flat uh, trading range right here. It gives you a bullish bar, a chance to get in at the very low of this trading range. You have everything you need there to go long. And these are the ones that sometimes will take off like a rocket and turn out to be really good trades. And you can see here, you could have used a limit order, and I think you could have got filled maybe 2 ticks back into this bar if you wanted to be a little more conservative. And if you did that, you probably would have got a runner on that one. Um, the only one you really got a runner on was over here because this came back and got these runners. But notice what happens here. Let me move this out of the way where you can see it a little better. The reason I like this one, there's a second entry long here, but we just came off the high and it's right in the middle. There's not room to get out. So you really can't take that one. You got to wait and see if maybe you get that trap. And you definitely don't want to be going short. So there's no shorts in here at all. This is all uphill now. And you either got to, even though you can treat this like a trading range, you still don't want to take any shorts because the bigger pattern, it's all uphill. So we clarify that first and foremost. So when you get this failed second entry short and it turns up, I like that for a long, quick, easy move, although you really don't get any runners, it comes back. So those were two really nice entries right there. And they're following the rules. They're entering at the right place. There's multiple reasons to take them both. Maybe not this one, but you got the trap on this one, and you can see how it rocketed up real quick. It didn't go a whole lot further because the high is only right here, and there's probably a lot of people just kind of sit and wait and see what's going to happen. Most of your shorts aren't going to be exiting here, although you're going to pick up some new shorts trying to pick a top like they always do, and guess what? Um, you catch them again right here, but this is a double top. And somebody asked me about this again today. You could treat this like a second entry long here because this is a new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. But a double top swings both ways, so you can treat this like another new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. And this was a beautiful setup because it went lower first and then turned and went out the upside on a second entry. So I like that entry. Having your stop there ready to go, and this one takes off again, and you could have caught some runners right here. And then you come up and you don't quite get back to the EMA, but you've already had your close and a new high. But when you get this bounce right here off the EMA, I still like this for a long. It's a fairly bullish bar. Notice the new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, and then you get the next push down, which this one really should have been green. I meant to mark this one, change this one to green, and I didn't. And the only reason it's green is because you had your break and you got a new high. So this one's a little bit risky, but the fact that we made a higher high and a higher low here, and this is basically a second entry counting off the lows. It's just a first entry. If you went to a smaller chart, it is a second entry long here, but this is not a very good signal bar. So this is one of those where I liked waiting on this bar and a break above it and then dropping a limit order back in, and it did work perfect. You could have even got filled a tick back into it, and then it takes off again, and that gives you room to get out before you get to that high. A lot of times, especially on a strong trend day, you're going to get two legs up. And so I would have been looking for that measured leg at that point once it started going higher if you're looking for a place to exit. And you can see we didn't quite get that measured move. And once it started working lower, you better get out of this one here. It's pretty obvious you're really starting to lose momentum, and you got that little 3 pushes up and then a lower high, second entry short. That's a place to exit. And there's no more entries in here because it's after 2 o'clock. But then we start a trend down, and you get a confirmation right there. That's that reversal. You didn't get the quick push through the EMA. You got a little bounce, but look how it pushed on through there. And if you draw this trend line, you can see that, and there's that failed Must have this on. There's that failed. It's not really a failed second entry long because it would have got a scalp, but you can treat it like one. It's the same thing, and you got a lower high each time you're making lower lows. And look at that big reversal bar. That's what you want to see. If this wasn't after 2 o'clock, man, you're going to jump all over that trade. And quick, easy scalp, and then it continued to work lower, and then you finally got a break here. And so pretty good day. It was a pretty straightforward day as long as you followed the rules and you waited on, you only went long once it was obvious we were in a uptrend here. And even if you didn't get the midline and the upper one, this trend line is very obvious here. And you might have to adjust it a little based on how you started off. I think I originally had mine just a tiny bit steeper than this, and I adjusted it. And you can see you don't get a clear close outside of it till here. And turns out to be a good, strong trend day. You went to a little range here, so you had to you could use your little range rules, but they also played into the trend line as well in the trend rules. And so that just gives some of these trades some added, some additional reasons to take them, so to speak. And that's what you want. If you can find multiple reasons to enter a trade, that makes it all the stronger, and gives you that makes the odds that much stronger that it's probably going to be a successful trade. So anyway, I hope you had a good trading day. Not much else we can say about today. We're recovering a good bit of the sell-off that we had. We're working our way back towards 2000. Will we get there? I don't know, but the one thing I will say, the volume and the volatility is back to normal, so to speak. We had a little more volume today than we did yesterday. We didn't have much volume yesterday. You can see that. And we didn't have much movement either. So the volume came back today, and we had a nice trend up. Still not the volatility we had, but this is a little more volume than what we had on Monday. Just wasn't much happening here. So, but that's really all I got for today. Again, we'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.